Everyday Blades, what's happening? So, I'm sure most all of you know what this is. This is the Holt Specter. This knife is hugely popular. Very difficult to get your hands on, and when you do, it's very expensive. So, I have been, of course, looking at them like everybody else since they came out, and don't fit in my budget. Everybody knows I have $1,000 budget range. I do cheat on that every once in a while, and of course this would be one of those cases because it's such a hyped knife. That many people wouldn't hype this knife if it wasn't great. So a little bit about Holt Blade Works, the little bit that I know, owned by a couple named Joe and Angie up north, and they believe they started in their garage and with a CNC machine, and they moved up, and they made this knife and the haptic, and evidently did a phenomenal job. They were not really in the knife market before and knocked it out of the park when they got in it. I was watching a earlier review with the original Specter, I believe it was a V2, and Nick Shabazz was, struggling to find a couple of bad things to say about it. But the couple of things that he did say about it, they immediately fixed it, and he followed it up with another review, and the next version of the knife came out, and they took his advice and they fixed a few things that he was, the concerns he brought up. So I had purchased this knife right before I got the Holt. A lot of people say these knives are very, very close. This is the Grimsmo Rask, and they are very close. I struggled at first to decide which one I liked better until I discovered one feature that the Specter had, which edged it out and made it better for me. This knife has a phenomenal action. It's really good, but if you get on lock bar a little bit, it'll bind up on you. I like a lighter detent. With most knives, you don't get that choice. You either have a heavy detent or you don't, right? With the Specter, I don't know if you can see it in there, but right in there is a hex head screw. No, maybe an Allen screw. Let me get the wrench out. I think it's an Allen screw. They send the wrenches to adjust it, which is super cool. They are very small. Yeah, it's an Allen head. So you stick this in here. Get on there, okay. Like that. And turn it to the right, I believe, to firm up the detent, and to the left to loosen the detent. I was able to get this detent exactly like I like it, because when I first got this knife, I like to fidget with my knives a lot. It was just after a few flips, it was getting a little tough on my finger. I mean, it was kind of hard to flip, and a lot of people like a heavy detent so it flips out there with authority, right? Well, I like a little bit softer detent because I might sit there and just flip my knife over and over, and it give me a sore finger after a while. But also, sometimes your finger might be sweaty or something, and if it's got a stiff detent, your finger will slide right off of it. I was able to get this knife just like I like it. I'm able to flip this thing out, and it doesn't give me any discomfort or anything. I love the way this detent turned out. That edged it out over the Rask for me. Of course, they send a thank you card with the number and certification card. And then mine has 2 wrenches. I don't know if they all do, but mine does. And a really nice pouch. I like the pouch thing. I like it when makers send a pouch. When you send a big old Pelican case, nobody's really going to carry that Pelican case. So let's look at another thing that edged this one up over the Rask for me was that the Holt is 20 CV, phenomenal killer steel. The Rask is RWL 34. Very good steel. I just personally don't believe it's as good as 20 CV. I think 20 CV is arguably far superior. RWL 34 and CPM 154, nothing in the world wrong with those steels. I mean, they'll do everything we need them to do forever. But, you know, I personally believe 20 CV is a little bit better. I think a lot of people do too. So I would think that with a knife that costs nearly $1,000, we'd bump that steel up a little bit. But they have their reasons, and to be honest with you, you know, most of us couldn't tell the difference anyway. But we know, and once we know, we want the best, right? Not even saying it's the best. If you're going to actually use your knife, the RWL might be better. I'm not the one to tell you that. I'm no scientist. Man, this knife is over the top good. So they have the lion logo. Oh, and you talk about polished mirror stonewash. I mean, that is killer. It is phenomenal. This one's good, right? You just saw that one. This one's good, but I mean, you're not really seeing much of a reflection there. It's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but this, man, that's as close to a mirror polish as you're going to get without having a mirror polish and not have to worry about fingerprints too much because of the stone wash. It hides it pretty well. And that action and detent is just killer. The fit and finish on this knife is second to none. Hidden hardware on the clip. The milling, it feels just like glass. There's definitely no rough spots or jagged edges. The jimping is super smooth. They have different pivots, and when you order these, you can order different finishes. I got lucky, and I really like this finish. And this knife is extremely, extremely sharp. Let's check the weight. So it's 0.2 ounces more than the Rask. The Rask is 3.1. So barely noticeable difference. I'll put it up against a couple of knives so you can kind of tell the difference. This is the Benchmade bug out. This is the Delica. You can see it feels in your hand like it's not an overwhelming size knife. It's a smaller knife. But when you put it up against a lot of these, you know, regular users, it's got more blade length. It's got more mass to it. It's a good size knife. Here's a good comparison. This is the Medford Slim Midi Marauder, which is definitely not a small knife. I'm a huge fan. The Holt's knocked it out of the park. Joe and Angie did a phenomenal job. So, if you run across one of these, if you have the means, and you've been thinking about it, I say go for it. I do not see you being disappointed. Just a killer knife. Let's take a quick measurement. Blade is about 3 5/8. Handle scale is 4 1/2. Overall, we're sitting about 8 1/8. Holt Blade Works Specter. Unbelievable knife. It does live up to the hype, in my opinion. Guys, thanks for watching. God bless you and your families. Say a prayer for our country. Good night.